My name is Shantae Brown, and I've been in an abusive relationship with my husband for 8 months. At first, it was very long distance. Then he eventually came to Jamaica, where we spent some time together. And after a while, he proposed, and I said yes. And in the space of about a month, I came to Iceland, and I've been living here ever since. I'm not crazy. Like, I wouldn't have said yes or even moved to a whole nother country if I didn't think he was a great guy. You know, he pretended to be, and he was very, very good at pretending to be a good guy. There were a lot of red flags, like a lot of them. He told me not to talk to any men, and he would also get mad at me if a man was looking at me. Another red flag, he didn't want me to have any friends. Like, if I said, yeah, I was gonna go out with a friend, he would be like, yeah, I wanna come. And I'd be like, but baby, you can't, it's a girl's thing. And he was telling me, like, we're married, we should spend all the time together. We don't need all these other people. He would always talk about me and my social media, and I would always be making up excuses as to why I need to be on social media. Like, I'm in a new country, I need to keep in touch with my friends and family back home. I wanted to get a job. At first, he didn't want me to. He didn't want me to work, but at the same time, the fact that I didn't work, like, he would always make me feel small. If I ever wanted to do anything, he would have to accompany me, like kind of like a chaperone, like I was a child or something. Sometimes he would follow me. He would call me names and stuff. Like, I think one of the worst things that he did was he would try and like slut shame me. And then it got physical, pushing and things like that, until it was full blown. Like, he injured me one time. It was also sexually abusive, financially abusive, and even social media. He would try to regulate how I use my phone, when I use my phone, even hacked into my phone quite a bit and made me feel like I was crazy whenever I asked him, like, was he doing it? Until I finally proved that he did. He did enjoy the fact that I couldn't speak the language, because things could go his way, especially in situations where obviously I would want to know what's going on. He wouldn't let me, know. And of course, obviously, like I said, I would need money to do things, like even small things, like just to go and buy something for like my skin, like lotion or something. And he would always have to ask me, like, what do you need the money for? And then if it's not a good enough reason, I'm not gonna get it. And then the sexual abuse came into play, because he would always hold that over my head. Like, if he did something, he'd be like, well, I did this for you, and now it's time for you to have sex with me. And I was going through like really bad depression at the time, and he would always be pressuring me to have sex, and I would always tell him I don't want to, because when you're depressed, the last thing that you can think about is having sex. I remember one time he took me to the doctors to go and find out what's wrong with my wife, is she broken or something? His first question was, when will she be able to have sex again? Like, not my mental state or me suffering from depression, of living in a new country. It was just more of, when is she gonna be okay, so that I can have sex with her again. So when you get married as an immigrant and you come to Iceland, your husband assumes the position of your caretaker. So he's the one who takes care of you financially. And when you guys get married, it stipulates that he needs to be making a certain amount to be able to take care of you both. And that also meant that he knew so much about me. Doctor's appointments and things like that, he would know about that. Anything related to the embassy and so on, of course I would want him to know about that, but it just goes to show you how much access he had to me. It was basically you were being owned by someone, because you didn't have any privacy whatsoever. One of the things that I was worried about when I wanted to leave my husband was if I would be kicked out of the country. That's probably the reason why I didn't leave even sooner, because it got so bad to the point where he physically hurt me. There's kind of this softer muscle that's there, and he twisted it so it tore. And I was at work, and the arm that he twisted, it had a fever, and I had to go and get it looked at, and they ran some x-rays and so on me, and they told me you have to tell me what happened, why did this happen to you? And a part of me was gonna just lie and say yeah, this happened because of the gym or something. But it's almost when I went there, the woman, she knew. So she said, you have to tell me the truth. And so I told her the truth. And that was the reason why I finally decided to leave. And at that point, I didn't care whether I got to stay in Iceland or not. I was literally just worried for myself, because that's the furthest he had ever taken it, but it wasn't the first time that he was physically abusive towards me. And when I told him I was leaving, he threatened me and told me that if I tell anybody what happened, then he's gonna do everything in his power to get me kicked out of the country. Even if I was kicked out of the country, that wouldn't be the bad thing, because I've lived in Jamaica for 25 years. So going back home, it would just be going back home. But my biggest fear was just having to start from nothing. Because when I moved to Iceland, I literally gave up everything. And at that point in my life, I couldn't see myself doing that, especially with the situation that I have back home. I have family, and they've always depended on me, and they still depend on me. So when I finally got some legal help, he realized that I was serious, and then he didn't want the divorce anymore. But by then, I had already known enough to leave, because my lawyer was telling me what my rights were. She was telling me the things that I can do. I had proof of the abuse, obviously, from going to the doctor, and just messages. So I left for good and went to the women's shelter. I got a nice, comfortable bed to sleep in. I got food, I got support from other women, and I think the best thing that I got when I went to the shelter was just being away from my husband. If there was any advice that I would give to another woman who's going through something like this, I would say just leave. And when you do leave, you realize that anything is better than being in a situation where someone who claims to love you is just repeatedly just hurting you. Just leave, it's not worth it.